You think the corporate ladder is climbed with talent, dedication, and just a little bit of luck? That if you pour your heart into a project for years, sacrificing sleep, weekends, relationships, even your own health, the company will reward you with fairness and recognition? I used to believe that fairy tale. With every fiber of my being. My name is Alexandra Hale. Everyone calls me Alex. And this is the story of how Apex Solutions, the tech firm I helped transform from a struggling startup into a $200 million powerhouse, turned on me in the most ruthless, calculated way imaginable. They stole the revolutionary project I built from scratch, demoted me under the polite lie of restructuring, and handed me a severance package so insulting it felt like a public humiliation. But what they never saw coming was that this betrayal didn't break me. It ignited me. What followed was a slow, silent, devastating revenge quit that exposed their fraud, shattered their reputation, and left me walking away, not just intact, but stronger, richer, and freer than I had ever been. If you've ever felt the cold sting of workplace injustice, the kind that makes your stomach twist and your hands shake with rage, stay with me. This is not just my story, it's a blueprint for anyone who's been pushed too far. Let me take you back to the beginning, when everything still felt possible. It was early 2023, and I was 28 years old, fresh out of Northwestern University with a master's in data science and a burning desire to prove I belonged in the big leagues. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, single mom, two younger brothers, a house that always smelled like coffee and determination. Mom worked double shifts as a nurse to pay for my coding camps and college applications. I learned early that nothing was handed to you. You had to build it yourself, line by line, algorithm by algorithm. So when Apex Solutions offered me a junior analyst role straight out of grad school, I jumped at it. The company was small then, barely 60 people, housed in a converted warehouse in the West Loop, with exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, and a whiteboard that stretched the length of the main room. The energy was electric. Everyone believed we were building something that would change the world. Apex specialized in AI-powered supply chain optimization. Our algorithms helped companies predict disruptions before they happened: weather delays, port strikes, raw material shortages, and reroute shipments to save millions. It was meaningful work. I loved it. Within 6 months, during an internal hackathon that lasted 3 sleepless days, I pitched my idea, ChainGuard. It wasn't just another predictive tool. ChainGuard used advanced machine learning, layered over real-time global data feeds, weather satellites, geopolitical news APIs, shipping manifests, even social media sentiment analysis, to forecast risks with unprecedented accuracy. It didn't wait for problems. It prevented them. The demo I built showed a simulated container ship, rerouted around a hurricane 3 days early, saving $1.8 million in potential losses. The room went quiet when the numbers flashed on the screen. Then Marcus Vaughn, our CEO, stood up, clapped slowly, and said, "Alex, this is the future. Let's make it real." Marcus was in his mid-50s, tall, silver-haired, with the kind of calm authority that made you want to follow him anywhere. He'd founded Apex 10 years earlier, after leaving a big consulting firm, tired of corporate politics. He promised us, quote, innovation over hierarchy, equity for everyone who contributed, and a culture where ideas mattered more than titles. I believed him. Within weeks, I was promoted to lead developer on ChainGuard. I got a small team, 3 engineers, 1 data scientist, and a modest budget to prototype. The next 2 years were the hardest and most exhilarating of my life. I lived ChainGuard. I coded until my eyes burned, ran simulations at 3 a.m., flew to client sites to gather feedback, iterated endlessly. I filed provisional patents, with my name as primary inventor. Company policy allowed it, with Apex as assignee. Beta tests with 3 major clients: a global retailer, an automotive parts supplier, and a pharmaceutical distributor, delivered jaw-dropping results. Average disruption reduction of 47%, cost savings of $2.7 million per client annually. Word spread. Investors started circling. By early 2026, Apex's valuation had climbed past $180 million, and ChainGuard was the crown jewel everyone talked about. Board meetings buzzed with IPO dreams. Marcus even pulled me aside once. "Alex, when we go public, you're going to be one of the faces of this company." I built real relationships during those years. Elena Ruiz, my direct manager, became a mentor and almost a second mother. She was sharp, no nonsense, always pushing me to present at conferences and own my wins. We'd stay late, strategizing over takeout, laughing about bad code and worse coffee. Sam from QA and Priya from marketing turned into close friends. We had a standing Thursday happy hour at a dive bar nearby. Outside work, I had Mia, my boyfriend of 4 years. He was a freelance illustrator, gentle and grounded, the perfect counterbalance to my intensity. We lived in a cozy apartment in Wicker Park, spent weekends hiking in the dunes, or cooking elaborate dinners. Life felt full, balanced, earned. Then the shift began. Slow, almost imperceptible at first. In February 2026, Elena announced she was leaving. For personal reasons. No goodbye party, no cake, just a quiet email. Her replacement was Victor Lang, hired from a large consulting firm in New York. Victor was 42, impeccably dressed, with a handshake that lingered too long, and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He introduced himself in the all-hands as the guy who scales winners. Within days, he requested a deep dive into ChainGuard. I presented everything: architecture, code samples, client results, roadmap. He nodded, asked smart questions, then said, "This is solid, Alex. Let's take it to the next level. My way." I didn't catch the warning in his tone. Over the following weeks, subtle changes crept in. He started rewriting slide decks for investor updates, replacing Alex's ChainGuard with Apex's ChainGuard led by Victor Lang. He began attending client calls I used to lead alone. In team meetings, he'd say things like, "Our enhancements to ChainGuard are game-changing," when the enhancements were minor UI adjustments I had delegated. I corrected him once. In front of the team, "Actually, the core predictive engine is my original work." He laughed it off. "We're all building on each other's shoulders, Alex. No need to get territorial." Then came the restructuring emails. To align with growth priorities, HR wrote, "Certain roles will be consolidated." My team was quietly reassigned to other projects. My access to the production servers was downgraded to read-only. I was excluded from strategy sessions. When I asked Victor directly, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "Alex, you're a rockstar engineer, but we need leaders who can think bigger picture now. Your role is evolving into a more supportive capacity." Evolving. The word landed like a punch. A week later, on a Friday afternoon, the classic coward's timing, HR scheduled a virtual meeting. 3 people on the call: HR director, Victor, and a lawyer I didn't recognize. They read from a script. "Due to organizational restructuring, your current position as lead developer is being eliminated. We are offering you a transition to junior analyst, or a severance package of 3 months base pay. You will be required to sign a non-disparagement and release agreement." I stared at the screen, numb. ChainGuard, my years of work, was being rebranded as Apex Guard, with Victor announced as the new lead. No equity acceleration, no bonus for the value I'd created. Just 3 months and a gag order. That evening, alone in my apartment, while Mia was at a client dinner, I opened my laptop and started digging. My credentials were still partially active. They hadn't moved fast enough to lock me out completely. I downloaded every email chain, every commit history, every slide deck version. I saw Victor's private notes to Marcus. "Alex is excellent technically, but lacks executive presence. I'll drive ChainGuard forward. My strategic refinements will accelerate monetization." Refinements? A new dashboard skin, and 1 API tweak. My name was buried in footnotes. The betrayal deepened when I found client pitch decks. Victor presenting ChainGuard as his vision from inception. The patent office had received an amendment. My name still there, but Victor added as co-inventor, with, quote, "significant contributions." Lies. On official documents. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I sat in the dark, heart pounding, and made a decision. I wasn't going to rage quit. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to disappear quietly, gather irrefutable proof, and then, when the moment was perfect, deliver a revenge. Quit so clean, so devastating, that Apex would feel it for years. The planning began that night. The moment I accepted the demotion on paper, something inside me shifted. It wasn't defeat. It was clarity. Rage had cooled into something sharper, colder, more precise, like a blade being forged in silence. I walked back into the Apex office the following Monday, with my head high, a polite smile plastered on my face, and a plan burning behind my eyes. No one could know what I was doing. Not yet. The revenge quit I was building required invisibility. I needed time, access, and irrefutable proof. One wrong move, one emotional outburst, and they'd lock me out completely, slap me with legal threats, and paint me as the bitter ex-employee. I refused to give them that narrative, so I played the part perfectly. I showed up early, coffee in hand, greeting everyone like nothing had changed. "Morning, team," I'd say, voice light. I volunteered for the grunt work Victor assigned, data cleanup, report formatting, the kind of tasks that kept me near the systems, without raising alarms. Victor loved it. "See? Alex is adapting beautifully," he told the team in one stand-up. I nodded along, while inside I cataloged every word, every smirk, every time he referred to ChainGuard as my baby now. My first priority was locking down evidence. I started with the digital trail, my strongest weapon. Every line of code I'd written for ChainGuard was timestamped in Git. I exported the full repository history to my personal encrypted drive using a VPN I'd set up months earlier for client demos. Commit logs showed my name on 4,872 commits versus Victor's 142, mostly cosmetic reviews like, "Nice work, let's polish UI." I screenshot every single one, timestamped them, and stored them in multiple secure locations. An external SSD hidden in my apartment safe, a Proton Drive account with two-factor authentication, and even a physical USB buried in a waterproof case at my mom's house back in the suburbs. Paranoia? Maybe, but necessary. Emails were next. Apex used Google Workspace. And while my access was limited, I still had archives from before the restructuring. I forwarded hundreds of threads to my private Proton mail, conversations where I pitched ChainGuard ideas first, where Victor replied, "Great concept, run with it," where clients thanked me personally for demos. One email chain from 2025 stood out. Victor to Marcus, CCing me. "Alex's prototype is promising. With my strategic input, we can monetize faster." Strategic input. That phrase became my mantra. I annotated every document. Original idea proposed by Alexandra Hale. March 15, 2024. No prior mention by Victor Lang. I didn't stop at my own files. I quietly reached out to old collaborators. Elena, now at a competitor in Boston, agreed to an encrypted signal call. "Victor pulled the same stunt on me at his last firm," she said, voice low. "He took credit for a dashboard I built, got promoted, then pushed me out. If you need sworn statements, I'll provide them." Sam from QA sent me anonymized screenshots of internal Slack, where Victor bragged, "ChainGuard's my ticket to SVP. Alex is great at the tech stuff, but I'm the one who sells it." Priya from marketing forwarded pitch deck versions, early ones with my name prominent, later ones scrubbed clean, except for Victor's. The personal betrayal hurt worse than the professional one. Mia and I had been fighting more. My obsession with fixing this was eating our evenings. One night, he sat me down on the couch, eyes red. "Alex, you're disappearing into this. I get why you're angry, but you're scaring me. What if they sue you? What if you lose everything?" I held him, promised I was being careful. But deep down, I knew the truth. I couldn't stop. Not until justice was served. I hired a lawyer the following week, Rebecca Klein, a specialist in intellectual property and employment disputes. We met in a quiet coffee shop downtown. I handed her a USB with the initial dossier. She reviewed it over 2 hours, expression unreadable. When she finished, she looked up. "You have a strong case for misappropriation of intellectual property, breach of fiduciary duty by Victor, and potentially wrongful demotion. The patent amendments are particularly damning. Adding him as co-inventor without contribution is fraud on the USPTO. But we need more. Financials. Client communications. Anything showing they're profiting off your work without crediting you." She gave me a roadmap. Document expenses, if Victor was misusing company funds, track investor presentations, preserve server logs. Most importantly, stay employed or in transition long enough to gather it all. If you quit too soon, they'll claim you're a disgruntled employee fabricating claims. Timing is everything, so I stayed. I smiled through Victor's mentorship sessions, where he taught me his enhancements to ChainGuard, changes I'd already designed months earlier. I nodded when he announced the rebrand to Apex Guard in an all-hands. "Big things coming," he said, winking at the camera. I clapped with everyone else, while mentally noting the date and time. For my timeline, financial dirt came slowly, but surely. I had read-only access to some shared drives. I found expense reports. Victor charging luxury dinners in New York as client entertainment for clients who'd never been invited. Hotel stays in Miami during strategy retreats with no agenda attached. One receipt stood out, $4,200 for a weekend at the Fontainebleau, billed as Apex Guard brainstorming. Attached photo from his Instagram, public, careless, him and a woman who wasn't his wife, champagne in hand. I screenshot it, cross-referenced dates. Misuse of funds. I also discovered the monetization plan. Internal memo from Victor to the board. Apex Guard licensing deals in pipeline. 45 million projected first year. Patent portfolio strengthened under my co-inventorship. Strengthened. My work. His credit. Their profit. As weeks turned to months, the emotional weight grew. I lost weight. Sleep became fragmented. Mia and I broke up. Not dramatically, but quietly. One evening, he packed a bag. I love you, Alex, but I can't watch you destroy yourself for a company that already destroyed you. Call me when this is over. The door closed softly behind him. That night I cried. For the first time since the demotion. Not from weakness, but from the realization that revenge was costing me pieces of my life. But I couldn't turn back. Not now. I channeled the pain into precision. I started a private journal, encrypted, not just facts, but feelings. Today, Victor presented my predictive model as his innovation. I wanted to stand up and scream. Instead, I took notes. It kept me grounded. It reminded me why I was doing this. By month 3, the dossier was 450 pages. Audio recordings from meetings, one-party consent state, screenshots, affidavits from Elena and Sam, financial discrepancies, patent discrepancies, client thank you emails addressed to me, ignored in Victor's narratives. The shareholder meeting was 6 weeks away. Virtual. Live streamed with open Q&A. Apex was hyping it as the pre-IPO showcase. Victor was set to demo Apex Guard live. Investors from venture firms and hedge funds would be watching. Marcus would be there, beaming. That was my stage. I prepared my exit, drafted resignation letter, short, professional. Due to personal reasons, I am resigning effective immediately, but I wouldn't send it until the day before the meeting. I also prepared the bomb, an anonymous drop site on a secure platform. Full dossier, redacted for legal safety, with links to originals. I'd submit questions during Q&A via proxy accounts. One simple query. Can Apex confirm the true origin and inventorship of Apex Guard? Evidence suggests Alexandra Hale's contributions were misattributed. The countdown began. The weeks leading up to the shareholder meeting felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. Every day I woke up with the same ritual. Check the encrypted drive to make sure nothing had been tampered with, review one new piece of evidence, and remind myself why I couldn't afford a single mistake. The apartment in Wicker Park, once filled with Mia's laughter and the smell of his morning tea, now felt like a war room. Papers spread across the dining table, laptop screens glowing late into the night, a single lamp casting long shadows on the walls. I barely slept more than 4 hours at a stretch. Coffee became my bloodstream, but the exhaustion wasn't weakness. It was fuel. Every tired eye, every aching shoulder, every moment of doubt only sharpened my focus. I was no longer just an engineer fighting for credit. I was becoming something else entirely. A force of quiet, unstoppable reckoning. Victor, oblivious, grew bolder by the day. He strutted through the office like a man who had already won the lottery. In stand-up meetings, he'd lean back in his chair, arms crossed, and announce updates on his Apex Guard, with the casual arrogance of someone who believed the world owed him applause. We're closing 2 more licensing deals this quarter, he'd say, glancing around for approval. The board is thrilled. IPO timeline is accelerating. The team clapped politely. I clapped too. Slow, measured claps, while mentally adding each claim to my timeline. I knew the truth behind those deals. They were built on my predictive models, my risk algorithms, my sleepless nights. He was selling my sweat. As his genius, one afternoon he called me into his office for what he called a catch-up. The room smelled of expensive cologne and printer ink. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, like he was granting an audience. Alex, I've been meaning to say, you've handled this transition really well. Not everyone adapts. You're proving you're a team player. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Thank you, Victor. I'm just glad Apex Guard is moving forward. He leaned forward, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Between us? The patent amendments were smart. Adds credibility when we pitch to big investors. You get it. Team effort, right? I smiled back. Absolutely. Team effort. Inside, I was screaming, but I recorded the entire conversation on my phone, hidden in my pocket. One-party consent state. Another nail for the coffin. I expanded my evidence net wider. I reached out to the 3 beta clients, under the guise of follow-up research. One of them, the pharmaceutical distributor, sent me an email chain, where their CTO had specifically thanked me by name for the initial demo and customization. Alexandra Hale's responsiveness made the difference, the email read. I saved it, forwarded it to Rebecca with a note. Direct attribution to me, ignored in Victor's pitches. The retailer client shared a contract draft where ChainGuard was described as developed under Alexandra Hale's leadership. Past tense. They hadn't updated it after the rebrand. More proof. Financial trails grew darker. Using my lingering access to shared financial folders, I found a pattern of inflated consulting fees paid to a shell LLC Victor had quietly registered in Delaware. The LLC, Lang Strategic Advisors, had received $320,000 over 6 months, billed as external strategy support for Apex Guard rollout. But public records showed the LLC had no employees, no website, and its address was a virtual mailbox. Cross-referencing with Victor's calendar, the payments coincided with weekends he spent in New York, where the mailbox was located. I also uncovered travel expenses, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, dinners at Michelin-starred restaurants, all coded as Apex Guard client development. Attached receipts showed no client names attached, just Victor, and a rotating cast of quote. I photographed everything, timestamped it, and added it to the dossier under quote, corporate fraud, misuse of funds. The emotional cost mounted. Without Mia, the apartment felt hollow. I'd come home to silence, heat up leftovers, and sit at the table staring at the evidence folders. Some nights the anger turned inward. Had I been naive? Had I trusted too easily? Had I let my work define me so completely that losing credit felt like losing myself? I started therapy. Online sessions with a counselor who specialized in workplace trauma. She listened without judgment. You're grieving, she said. Not just a job or a relationship, but the version of yourself you thought the company valued. Those words helped. They reminded me this wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about reclaiming dignity, about making sure no one else would be erased, the way I had been. I also reconnected with my mom. We talked every Sunday evening. She didn't know the full details. I didn't want to worry her, but she sensed the weight. Misha, whatever you're going through, remember who raised you. You're strong. You always have been. Her voice anchored me. I sent her small gifts anonymously, gift cards, flowers, because I couldn't bear the thought of her worrying about money while I fought this war. By week 8, the dossier had grown to 680 pages. I organized it into sections: technical theft, code logs, patents, professional misattribution, presentations, emails, financial irregularities, expenses, shell company, and witness statements. Elena, Sam, client emails. Rebecca reviewed the updated version over Zoom. This is nuclear, she said. We can file for IP infringement, breach of contract, and potentially whistleblower protections under Sarbanes-Oxley if fraud is proven. But the real power is in timing. Drop this during the shareholder meeting, and the fallout will be immediate. Stock price, investor confidence, regulatory scrutiny, all at risk. I prepared the drop mechanism meticulously. I created a secure anonymous website on a privacy-focused host, domain registered through a proxy service. The site was password protected, with a one-time link I'd share during the Q&A. Inside, the full redacted dossier, downloadable PDFs, embedded audio clips, and a timeline infographic showing the theft step by step. No personal identifiers until the very end. A single page titled, The Truth About Apex Guard, with my name, my contributions, and a note. I built this. They stole it. The evidence speaks for itself. I set up proxy accounts on the shareholder platform, burner emails, VPN routing through 3 countries. I practice submitting questions. Polite, professional, devastating. Can the board clarify the inventorship history of Apex Guard? Given public records show Alexandra Hale as primary inventor prior to recent amendments? Another. Are there ongoing investigations into expense irregularities tied to the Apex Guard project lead? The night before my resignation, I couldn't sleep. I walked the streets of Wicker Park at 2 a.m., past closed cafes and glowing streetlights, replaying every moment. The hackathon, where I first demoed Chain Guard, Marcus's handshake, Victor's first team effort comment, Mia's goodbye, my mom's voice. It all converged into one truth. I had given everything to Apex. Now I was taking it back, not with noise, but with undeniable truth. I sent the resignation email at 7:15 a.m., the day before the meeting. Subject: Notice of resignation, effective immediately. Body: 3 sentences. Professional, final. No explanations, no anger, just gone. Then I waited. The shareholder meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. Central Time. I logged in anonymously, from a coffee shop across town, laptop on a corner table, headphones in. The stream opened with Marcus's polished intro. Charts, growth metrics, IPO excitement. Victor appeared next, confident, rehearsed. He launched into the Apex Guard demo. Live dashboards flickered on screen. He clicked through predictive models, my models, pointing out key innovations I introduced. I waited for the Q&A window. When it opened, I submitted the first question through Proxy 1. The moderator read it aloud. Question from shareholder. Can the board clarify the inventorship history of Apex Guard? Given public records show Alexandra Hale as primary inventor prior to recent amendments? Victor froze mid-sentence. Marcus's smile faltered. The chat exploded with reactions. I submitted the link to the drop site in the next question. Within minutes, investors were downloading. Gasps turned to murmurs. Victor stammered through excuses. This is misinformation. Internal matter. We'll address offline. But the damage was done. By noon, the stock tracker, pre-IPO private shares, showed a 12% dip. News alerts pinged. Apex Solutions faces allegations of IP theft ahead of IPO. X threads spread. Blind posts lit up. Alexandra Hale just nuked Apex. Victor was placed on leave that afternoon. Marcus called me personally, voicemail. Alex, we need to talk. This can be resolved amicably. I didn't reply. Rebecca filed the lawsuits the next morning. Civil claims for misappropriation, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. The SEC opened an inquiry into the expense irregularities and patent fraud. Within weeks, Victor resigned to pursue other opportunities. Apex settled quietly. 7-figure payout to me, full credit restoration on all materials, and my name reinstated on the patent as sole inventor. I didn't return. I launched Hale Predictive Analytics, my own firm, first client. The pharma distributor, who'd thanked me years earlier. Within a year, we surpassed Apex Guard's revenue projections, ethically, transparently, with a team that shared in the success. Victor? Last I heard, consulting for small firms, reputation in tatters. The sweetest part? When I walk past the Apex building now, I don't feel anger, I feel peace, because I didn't just quit. I made sure the truth outlived their lies. And that, more than any payout or title, was the real victory. Have you faced workplace betrayal? Share in comments.